Being a property owner comes with a plethora of benefits for investors who found the right deal and are committed to finding the right help. On the other side of that fence, however, where the grass is a little less green, we'll find the trials and tribulations of tenancy disputes. The global outbreak of COVID-19 has highlighted many of the issues that property owners will face during times of crisis, especially with respect to tenancy agreements. Stay tuned to hear from our mastermind, Ali Jamal, who has some great tips on how to navigate through those trepid waters while the environment around us is somewhat uncertain. Ali, can you help me understand, as a landlord, what rights do you have as a hotel owner versus a homeowner versus a vacation rental owner when it comes to tenancy disputes?
It's a good question because there are laws and regulations around this, but there's a lot of gray areas as well. So I would say vacation rentals and hotels fall under the same scenario in terms of these type of situations, because both are considered almost, vacation rentals are just considered micro hotels in many ways. That's why you have to pay occupational tax. They would be governed by the same laws as a hotel. So if someone comes and stays with you through Airbnb and they just say the next day, hey, you know what, we're not leaving because of this whole shelter in place order, and we're just going to stay in your home, you have the right as the homeowner and someone who's rented it out on a daily basis to evict that person right away and call the police and have them thrown out. Okay. Now on the hotel side, it's the same thing, but then you have variations of different types of hotel assets. A hotel that is, let's just say, for example, a Ritz-Carlton or a Hilton. Someone coming in there, most likely because of the price range of a per night stay there, is only going to be staying for a few nights. They're not going to be staying for 30 or 40 nights. So once again, you fall into the same situation as with the vacation rental. You call the police and they're going to kick them out. With the extended stays, it's a little bit more complicated because you have people living in your building almost like an apartment complex. And so it's interesting because you're under hotel regulations, but at the same time, you have tenants who are with you for long periods of time. So this creates a dynamic situation sometimes. So there can be times where tenants at your hotel who have been there for over 60, 90 days say, look, we should not have to pay rent because there's a shelter in place situation. You should not be charging us because of that. And the hotel owner has the option of really at that point calling the police and trying to take them out, because realistically the hotel is still under hotel regulations and can do that. If the tenant stayed there over 90 days, there is a gray area there where an argument can be made that anyone over 90 days, depending on the state that you're in, can live in your hotel for free during these type of situations, potentially. The best option, once again, I find, is to meet in the middle. Explain to the tenant that you're a small business owner. You're just trying to pay your bills just like them. You're willing to work with their budget, keep them in the hotel, but give them a reduced rate. So once things get normalized, you haven't had to kick them out, and they've also not been hurt financially. So there's a way where you guys can meet in the middle together, where your business is still going to be, running, but they're also not going to be thrown out into the street. There has to be reasonableness on both sides. If the owner of the hotel or a property or the tenant is not being reasonable, then it's going to create a volatile situation.
Can you provide some examples of what issues you've experienced with your tenants during this pandemic?
We were very situational about it. When you work with people in their specific situation, you're going to do a lot better than trying to have a blanket policy in a pandemic where everyone's situation is different. Some people are losing jobs. Some people are not losing jobs. Some people are furloughed. Other people have more hours because they need their frontline workers. Everyone's different, so you got to come up with a different solution for each person.
What's your advice to a tenant who comes to you and says, I can't pay the rent this month. I lost my job. I have to support my family. I have a spouse. I have kids. And I have no money to give you for rent.
I think most property owners are looking to keep good tenants, and they're looking to keep people who are good customers. They'll work with you most likely. If they're good at what they do, they'll work with you to ensure that you have a roof over your head. At the same time, you have to understand that the property owner is feeding a lot of people and making sure a lot of people are keeping their jobs. So you need to create a win-win. In everything in life, you need to look at a win-win scenario. If you're going to the property owner asking for a discount or a deferment of rent or whatever it might be, you just got to understand that the property owner is also in a difficult situation and that you got to meet in the middle, that there has to be a compromise. I think at Stable Gold, we've done a good job of that. I mean, we're running at almost 95, 100% occupancy with no one staying without paying rent. But once again, we've worked with everyone. So everyone is happy. We haven't put anyone in a bad situation. We've tried our best wherever we can to ensure that people continue to have a roof over their head, and we can continue to make sure everyone is employed and we're putting food on the table of all of our valued team members.
In most cases, if that happened with a residential tenant, that tenant would probably be facing the eviction process, and then they'd fall into that vicious cycle where they can't find another lease agreement because the eviction is on their record. Is that the case here?
I think, extended stay hotels are in a very unique situation where we have customers staying with us for long periods of time, but we are not governed by residential tenancy agreements. We don't kind of live by the same standards in terms of, from a housing perspective, that a multifamily apartment complex or a residential housing unit would have. That being said, internally, we definitely worked with many of our customers. At the end of the day, we just thought it was the right thing to do. We reduced the price of our customers' rental expense by probably 25 to 50% for about 75% of our customers between the hotel properties, just to help them get through, this kind of, COVID situation and the fact that a lot of them might have lost their employment.
And how did that compromising with the tenant work out for the books? I mean, the accounting books.
It was definitely difficult for us. We went through some challenging times because on a per room basis, we were obviously making less, and we had not let go of anyone. We had kept our employment levels high. There was a balance that we needed to maintain. And so that balance for us was ensuring that all of our customers paid and that no one stayed complimentary. But at the same time, we worked with them in their financial situation. We met in the middle. And I think if you can meet your customer base in the middle, ensure that they're still paying and they're still being consistent with their payments, you can help them in terms of what those payments are so they can stay in the unit and everyone can come out of this better than they were going into it.
At the end of the day, were you out of pocket by helping the tenants?
I think we basically just broke even. What it enabled us to do is to keep our occupancy levels high, but our average daily rate went a little bit lower, obviously because we were charging less per room per night. What happened is, as the situation got better, we brought the rental amount back to normal, but we had the same occupancy or even a higher occupancy level now because more people were staying with us because they needed a reduced rate at that time. So what happened coming out of this situation, we came out actually much stronger because we had very high occupancy levels. We never had a large segment of the building that decided just not to pay. Because of that fact, and because we worked with our tenants through the situation, we actually came out on the other end in a much better position.
So fast forward 4 months after the state of emergency was first announced, how has the situation improved? Are tenants regaining employment, and are they managing to pay their rent on time?
If I put stats behind it, let's say out of 100 customers, 50% were still working on payment plans. Many of them we're still giving a discount to, or we're letting them pay rent in a way that they're comfortable paying. I would say overall, the picture has gotten better. More people are back at work. I can see that because our hotels are empty during the day for the most part, and people are coming back to the hotels at nighttime after a long day of work. It's definitely picked up. Now, we are seeing a resurgence of cases in the US and Georgia. I mean, yesterday we just had about 2,000 new cases, I think, in one day. We don't know what that's going to look like in the next couple of weeks.
Just going back to what we were chatting about earlier, I know that you don't go to any special lengths to help our guests with affordable rates and flexible payment plans for gaining any special recognition of any kind, but it's still nice to know that that has happened. It never hurts any business. And more specifically, what I'm referring to is the recent award you received from the Cobb Chamber of Commerce. Congratulations on that. Tell us more about how and why Stable Gold won this award.
Our company has had significant year-over-year revenue growth. So I think that's one of the components they look at. So I think that's one thing. I think providing a service that's economically feasible for a large segment of the community that maybe might not be able to get affordable housing, we kind of fill the gap there. We've come up with a solution through our accommodation type, which is an extended stay hotel, that really helps many, many people stay off the streets. Now, in all transparency, we're not the company that invented extended stay hotels. Extended stay hotels were out there with companies like Studio 6 and In Town Suites. I think what we've done that's a little bit different is we've been a little bit more flexible with the clientele, understanding that many of our customers are going through socioeconomic challenges. We've tried to implement measures that would hopefully help them in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's partnering with local nonprofits to help a lot of our residents' children receive after-school tutoring for free, or working with other nonprofits that come by and give complimentary food and sandwiches and all that good stuff to guests, or whether we give certain discounts to charities in the local areas that our properties reside in to help give people a chance to get housing for a week or two to get back on their feet. I think some of these things that we're doing are initiatives that maybe other extended stays have not done in the past. And the demographic of clientele is a little bit different than what, once again, other extended stays might be working with.
Well, that's some really good insight. Is there anything else that you think is important for businesses to know in terms of how to approach the customer service from a COVID-19 standpoint?
I think the word I would use, amiable. Just be flexible with your customers right now. That's the only way your business will survive, is if you are flexible with your clientele. The recession, from all indications, is not going to be recovering very shortly. We don't really know the repercussions of what's coming down the pipeline. And all that being said, every relationship counts, because you don't know what position your business is going to be in 12 months. We still have guests staying with us that had stayed with us when we first opened. And that was just based on relationship. I don't think it was based on the fact that our property is this beautiful property. It's the fact that they met me personally and they still ask for me when they come to the hotels. It's all about the relationship. And this is a time when you can solidify many of them.
All right, that's great. Well, that's some sound advice. As you said, it's going to be a tough road ahead for the hospitality industries. We're wishing you all the best of luck and look forward to the next podcast topic.
Thank you.